Most men are defeated before the battle even begins, not by their enemies, not by circumstance, not by the cruelty of fate, but by the one force they never learned to conquer, themselves. Inside every man lives a beast that wears his face, speaks in his voice, and whispers that he is right even as he burns everything around him to the ground. That beast is the ego, and it is the most dangerous opponent you will ever face because it never feels like an enemy. It feels like you. Machiavelli understood what the weak refuse to accept, that a man who cannot govern himself will never govern anything else. True power is not loud. It does not beg for attention or crumble under criticism. It is cold, calculated, and deeply rooted in one rare ability, the discipline to pause between impulse and action. That pause is where kings are made. That silence is where empires are built. Most men never find it because they are too busy feeding the very beast that is destroying them. Tonight, that changes. Drop iron mind in the comments if you're ready to begin. Number 2. The illusion of strength. Your ego is not confidence. It's a costume. Let me tell you something that most men spend their entire lives never understanding, and it costs them everything. The ego is not strength. It is not confidence. It is not power. It is a costume, a carefully constructed mask that the weak mind builds to avoid facing the terrifying truth of its own insecurity. And the tragedy is this: the louder a man performs his strength, the more violently he is hiding his fear. You have seen this man. You may be this man, the one who cannot take criticism without turning it into a war, the one who cannot admit a mistake without feeling like he is dying inside, the one who confuses stubbornness with conviction, arrogance with intelligence, and rage with authority. That is not a powerful man. That is a frightened boy wearing armor he does not know how to take off. Machiavelli was ruthlessly clear on this. He said that the man who is ruled by pride is the easiest man to manipulate. Think about that. Your ego, the very thing you believe is protecting you, is actually the door through which your enemies walk in freely. All they have to do is threaten your pride, and you react. All they have to do is challenge your image, and you expose yourself completely. You become predictable. And a predictable man is a controllable man. In the game of power, the man who controls his reactions controls the entire room. Real confidence needs no audience. It does not rise and fall based on who is watching, who is clapping, or who is criticizing. It is a quiet, immovable certainty that lives so deep inside a man that no words can shake it and no opinion can reach it. That is the confidence Machiavelli was pointing toward. Not the performance of power, but the possession of it. Strip away the costume, kill the performance. What remains is either iron or nothing at all. Drop no mask, no mercy in the comments if this is hitting different. Number 3. The silent war. The battle no one sees is the one that decides everything. There is a war happening right now that no one around you can see. No battlefield, no witnesses, no applause when you win, and no sympathy when you lose. It is fought in the moments before you speak when someone disrespects you. It is fought at 2 a.m. when discipline whispers and comfort screams. It is fought every single time you choose between who you are right now and who you are capable of becoming. This is the silent war, and it is the only war that truly matters. Because every external battle you will ever face is simply a reflection of how well you have fought this one. The man who has conquered himself walks into every room already victorious. The man who hasn't, no matter how loud, how decorated, how feared, is fighting on borrowed time. Machiavelli wrote that men must either be pampered or crushed. There is no middle ground. And while he spoke of political enemies, the deepest truth of that statement lives inside you. You cannot half commit to mastering yourself. You cannot negotiate with your weakness. You cannot bargain with your lowest impulses and expect them to honor the deal. The ego does not respect compromise. Feed it once, and it demands to be fed again. Give it an inch of justification, and it will consume your entire character. The silent war demands total war. It demands that you look at every ugly, inconvenient, uncomfortable truth about yourself, and instead of running, you build on it. Most men choose comfort over confrontation, especially the internal kind. They would rather chase distractions, numb the silence, and stay exactly where they are than sit alone with the raw, unfiltered reality of who they have allowed themselves to become. But not you, not after this. The man who steps into that silence without flinching, who stares at his own reflection without excuses, that man becomes something rare, something almost untouchable. The silent war is where legends are forged. One brutal, unseen victory at a time. Drop "I choose war" in the comments if you fight this battle every single day. Number 4, the Machiavellian mind. Think like a strategist, feel like a stone, move like a shadow. Niccolò Machiavelli did not write for the comfortable. He did not write for the men who needed reassurance, validation, or a gentle push in the right direction. He wrote for the ones who were willing to see the world as it truly is, not as they wished it to be. And what he saw was this: the world is a battlefield of competing interests, hidden agendas, and naked ambition dressed in the clothing of virtue. The man who understands this is dangerous. The man who refuses to accept it is a victim waiting to happen. Machiavelli's genius was not cruelty, it was clarity. He stripped away every comfortable illusion and left only the cold, precise truth of human nature. And that truth is this: people are moved by fear, self-interest, and perception far more than they are moved by love, loyalty, or fairness. This is not cynicism. This is the operating system of the world you actually live in. So what does it mean to think like a Machiavellian? It means you study every room before you speak in it. It means you understand that information is currency, and silence is often the most powerful statement you can make. It means you never reveal the full depth of your thinking to anyone, because the man who shows his entire hand at the table is the man who leaves with nothing. The Machiavellian mind is always 3 moves ahead, not out of paranoia, but out of preparation. There is a profound difference between the two. Paranoia is fear wearing a disguise. Preparation is power wearing patience. To feel like a stone means you build an interior so solid, so disciplined, so deeply anchored in your own values and vision that the turbulence of the world around you cannot move you from your foundation. Men will try to provoke you. They will test your composure, challenge your status, and throw chaos at your door, because a reactive man is an exposed man. When you do not react, when you simply observe with cold and calculating eyes, you terrify them. Because they cannot predict you. They cannot control what they cannot read. And an unreadable man is an unconquerable man. To move like a shadow means you let your results speak before your reputation does. It means you operate in the quiet spaces between visibility and obscurity, building, planning, and positioning yourself while others are busy performing for an audience that will forget them by morning. The shadow does not announce its presence. It simply arrives. And by the time your enemies realize you have moved, you are already exactly where you need to be. This is not manipulation for its own sake. This is strategic intelligence, the highest form of masculine discipline. The Machiavellian mind does not react to the world. It reads the world, reshapes it, and moves through it with the quiet confidence of a man who has already decided how the story ends. Drop shadow and stone in the comments if you are building this kind of mind right now. Number 5. The ego trap. How your pride has been used against you without you ever knowing. What if I told you that every time you lost your temper, someone was winning? Every time you felt the need to prove yourself, someone was profiting. Every time your ego pulled you into an argument you didn't need to have, a battle you didn't need to fight, or a reaction you didn't need to give, someone, somewhere, was using your pride as a weapon against you. And the most devastating part, you handed it to them willingly. You didn't even feel it happening. That is the ego trap, and it is the oldest, most effective manipulation technique in the entire history of human conflict. It requires no force, no deception, no elaborate scheme. All it requires is that your ego remains untrained, unguarded, and hungry for validation. Give a man an unmastered ego, and you don't need to defeat him. You simply need to provoke him, and he will defeat himself. Machiavelli studied this dynamic with surgical precision. He understood that the easiest way to destroy a powerful man was not through direct confrontation. It was through provocation. Make him angry enough, and he abandons strategy. Make him insecure enough, and he overextends. Make him feel disrespected enough, and he reveals everything: his fears, his weaknesses, his desperation to be seen as significant. The ego, when left untamed, becomes a live wire hanging in plain sight. And the dark truth of power psychology is this: the people around you, whether consciously or instinctively, already know how to grab it. Think about the last time someone got under your skin, the last time a comment made you defensive, the last time you felt the burning need to respond, to correct, to win an exchange that meant absolutely nothing in the architecture of your actual life. In that moment, you were not operating from strength. You were operating from wound. Your ego was not protecting you. It was exposing you. It was screaming to everyone in the room that beneath the surface, there is something fragile, something unresolved, something that can be touched and twisted by the right words from the right person at the right moment. The man who masters his ego closes that door permanently. He becomes psychologically sovereign, immune to the provocations that destroy lesser men. Insults land and dissolve. Criticism is filtered for value and discarded when empty. Disrespect is met not with rage, but with the most terrifying response a man can give: absolute indifference. Because indifference is not weakness. In the language of power, indifference is a declaration. It says, "You do not have enough significance in my world to alter my state of mind." And nothing unsettles an enemy more than the realization that they simply do not matter to you. Close the ego trap. Become the man who cannot be baited, cannot be provoked, and cannot be used. That man is not just strong, that man is free. Drop "psychologically sovereign" in the comments if you refuse to be provoked ever again. Number 6. The reconstruction. Destroy the weak version of yourself before life does it for you. There comes a moment in every man's life, if he is honest enough to recognize it, where he must look at the version of himself he has been living as and make a brutal, unforgiving decision. Not a decision wrapped in self-help language, not a decision softened by compassion or cushioned by excuses. A cold, clear, Machiavellian decision. This version of me is not enough. Not enough for the life I want. Not enough for the legacy I am capable of leaving. Not enough for the man I was built to become. And the moment you make that decision, truly make it in the marrow of your bones, without negotiation and without retreat, the reconstruction begins. But understand this: reconstruction is not renovation. You are not repainting the walls of a broken house and calling it new. You are tearing it down to the foundation, examining every beam, every crack, every compromised structure, and rebuilding with materials that do not bend under pressure. Most men never reach this moment because the ego protects them from it. The ego is an architect of comfortable lies. It tells you that you are already doing enough. It tells you that your failures are someone else's fault. It tells you that the life you are living is simply the result of bad timing, bad luck, or a world that does not recognize your worth. And as long as you believe those lies, you remain exactly where you are. Stagnant, frustrated, and secretly aware that you are capable of so much more, but unwilling to pay the price that transformation actually demands. The price is not money. The price is not time alone, though that is part of it. The price is the death of your comfort, the death of your excuses, the death of the weak, reactive, validation-hungry version of yourself that has been quietly running your life from the shadows. Machiavelli was unambiguous about the nature of transformation. He believed that a man must be willing to be ruthless with himself before he can be effective in the world. Not cruel, not self-destructive, but ruthless in the way a surgeon is ruthless, precise, unflinching, and completely focused on removing what does not serve the survival of the whole. You must become the surgeon of your own character. You must cut away the habits that are slowly bleeding you dry. The need for constant approval, the inability to sit in discomfort without reaching for distraction, the pattern of starting strong and abandoning when the work becomes invisible and unrewarded, the tendency to shrink yourself in rooms where you should be expanding. These are not personality traits. These are wounds. And wounds that are never treated do not stay the same size. They grow, they spread, and eventually they define you in ways you never consciously chose. The reconstruction demands that you build new architecture from the inside out. It demands that you design your identity the way Machiavelli's prince designed his state, with intention, with foresight, and with the absolute understanding that everything you allow inside your walls either strengthens or weakens the whole. Your habits are your walls. Your discipline is your army. Your vision is your throne. And the man sitting on that throne, the reconstructed, uncompromising, psychologically fortified man, he does not recognize the version of himself that used to flinch at discomfort, collapse under criticism, or beg the world for permission to be great. That old version had to die so this one could breathe. And here is what no one tells you about that death. It does not feel like loss. It feels like relief. Like finally putting down a weight you forgot you were carrying, like stepping out of a skin that was always too small for what you were meant to become. The reconstruction is not punishment. It is the greatest act of self-respect a man can perform. The decision to stop tolerating his own mediocrity and start building something that time itself cannot erode. Drop "I am being rebuilt" in the comments if you are in the middle of this process right now. Number 7. The code of silence. The most powerful men in history spoke last and said the least. There is a discipline so rare, so deeply misunderstood, and so devastatingly effective that the men who master it appear almost supernatural to those around them. It is not physical strength. It is not intellectual genius. It is not wealth or status or the ability to dominate a room with presence alone. It is something far simpler and infinitely more difficult than any of those things. It is the ability to be silent, deliberately, strategically, and completely, when every nerve in your body is screaming at you to speak. In a world drowning in noise, in opinion, in the desperate need to be heard and validated and understood, silence is not emptiness. Silence is architecture. It is the invisible structure upon which real power is built, brick by brick, in the spaces where lesser men cannot stop themselves from talking. Machiavelli understood the geometry of silence better than almost any thinker who came before or after him. He watched princes fall not because they were outmaneuvered militarily, but because they were outmaneuvered verbally. They spoke when they should have listened. They revealed when they should have concealed. They explained themselves when explanation was a form of weakness, and they defended themselves when defense was a form of confession. Every unnecessary word a powerful man speaks is a window opened in a fortress wall. And windows, no matter how beautiful, are vulnerabilities. The man who speaks without strategy is the man who builds his own prison, one sentence at a time, and hands his enemies the key with a smile on his face. Think about the most formidable people you have ever encountered in your life. Not the loudest, not the most entertaining, not the ones who filled every silence with the sound of their own voice. The ones who made you feel something. A quiet unease, a deep respect, an instinctive awareness that you were in the presence of someone operating on a completely different level. What was it about them that commanded that response? It was restraint. It was the unmistakable signal that behind those eyes, something vast and deliberate was moving, thinking, calculating, choosing every word the way a chess grandmaster chooses every move. Their silence was not passive. It was not uncertainty dressed as calm. It was controlled power, the most intimidating force a human being can project without ever raising a hand or raising a voice. The code of silence is built on several unbreakable principles that every Machiavellian man must internalize until they become instinct. Never explain your moves to people who are not entitled to understand them. Never justify your decisions to those who have not earned the right to question them. Never fill a silence simply because it makes other people uncomfortable. Their discomfort is information, and information is power. Never speak in anger, because anger removes the filter between your wounds and the world, and once words leave your mouth, they belong to whoever heard them. Never reveal the ceiling of your ambition to those who would feel threatened by it, diminished by it, or motivated to quietly dismantle it before you reach it. These are not social games. These are survival principles, the same principles that separated the rulers from the ruled throughout every era of human civilization. But the code of silence goes deeper than strategy. It goes into the very psychology of how you relate to your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own inner world. The undisciplined man is a slave to every feeling that passes through him. He feels anger and expresses it immediately, feels insecurity and masks it loudly, feels doubt and drowns it in noise and distraction. The man who has mastered the code of silence has built a different relationship with his interior landscape entirely. He feels everything, make no mistake. Stoicism is not numbness, and cold power is not the absence of emotion. But he processes internally before he projects externally. He is the editor of his own experience. He decides what the world sees, what the world hears, and what the world is permitted to know about the machinery running beneath the surface. This is the ultimate form of masculine self-possession. When you control what you reveal, you control how you are perceived. When you control how you are perceived, you control the narrative of your own life. And when you control the narrative, you control the room, the relationship, the negotiation, and ultimately, the outcome. The most powerful men in history were not the most vocal. They were the most intentional. They spoke last, said the least, and when they finally opened their mouths, the entire world leaned in to listen. Become a man worth listening to by first becoming a man disciplined enough to be silent. Drop "Silence is my weapon" in the comments if you are mastering this right now. Number 8. The cold equation. Emotion is information, not instruction. Let me say something to you that the modern world has been desperately trying to make you forget. Something that has been systematically dismantled, ridiculed, and replaced with a softer, more palatable lie that has quietly weakened an entire generation of men. Emotion is not your compass. Emotion is not your guide. Emotion is not the sacred, unquestionable voice of your authentic self that must be expressed freely, honored completely, and followed without hesitation. Emotion is data. It is a signal fired from the deepest parts of your nervous system, carrying information about your environment, your fears, your desires, and your unresolved history. And like all data, it must be read before it can be useful, analyzed, contextualized, and filtered through the cold, precise lens of strategic intelligence before it is ever allowed to influence a single decision you make. The man who acts on every emotion he feels is not authentic. He is unfinished. He is a weapon without a trigger guard, dangerous to everyone around him, but most catastrophically to himself. Machiavelli's entire philosophical framework rests on this single, uncompromising foundation: that the effective man separates what he feels from what he does with ruthless consistency. Not because feelings are shameful, not because vulnerability is weakness in every context, but because the battlefield of life, the boardroom, the negotiation, the relationship, the moment of conflict, demands a quality of thinking that raw emotion actively destroys. Anger narrows the mind to a single point and eliminates peripheral vision. Fear contracts the thinking into worst-case spirals that paralyze action. Insecurity disguises itself as intuition and steers you away from the very risks that would transform your life. These are not character flaws, these are biological realities, and the Machiavellian man does not fight his biology. He understands it deeply enough to govern it with precision and authority. The cold equation is this: when emotion rises, your first obligation is not expression, it is observation. You step back, even if only by a single breath, and you ask the question that separates the strategic mind from the reactive one. What is this feeling telling me? And is that information accurate? Because emotions lie, not always, but often enough that blind trust in them is a liability you cannot afford. The anger you feel in a moment of perceived disrespect may be rooted not in the present situation, but in a wound carried from years ago that has never been properly examined. The fear that stops you from making a bold move may not be a warning from wisdom. It may be the voice of a younger, smaller version of yourself who learned that standing out was dangerous. Recognizing the difference between a genuine signal and an emotional echo from your past is one of the most sophisticated skills a man can develop, and almost no one teaches it. What the cold equation ultimately builds inside you is something that dark psychology identifies as the rarest and most formidable of all human qualities: emotional untouchability. Not coldness, not detachment from the human experience, but an interior stability so profound, so deeply engineered through self-awareness and deliberate practice, that the emotional weather of the world around you cannot penetrate your core and alter your trajectory. People will rage at you, and you will remain level. People will flatter you dangerously, and you will remain clear. People will attempt to destabilize you with grief, with guilt, with manufactured urgency, and you will feel it, acknowledge it, process it, and then choose your response from a place of complete strategic clarity rather than momentary emotional chaos. This is not the absence of humanity. This is the pinnacle of it, because the man who has mastered his emotional landscape is the man who can finally be trusted by others, but more importantly, by himself. He does not wake up dreading his own reactions. He does not go to sleep replaying the damage his unfiltered emotions caused during the day. He moves through the world with a quiet, unshakable confidence that comes not from never feeling difficult things, but from knowing, with absolute certainty, that whatever he feels will never again be allowed to make decisions on his behalf without his full, conscious, deliberate permission. Emotion is information. Read it, use it, but never, under any circumstances, let it drive. Drop "I control the wheel" in the comments if you are taking back command of your own mind. Number 9. The legacy equation. A man who builds nothing leaves nothing, and the world forgets him before he is even gone. There is a question that most men avoid their entire lives, not because they do not know it exists, but because the honest answer to it is too heavy, too confronting, and too demanding to sit with comfortably. That question is this: when you are gone, what remains? Not your possessions, not your titles, not the car you drove or the clothes you wore or the image you spent decades carefully constructing for people who were never truly paying attention. What remains of the work? What remains of the impact? What remains of the deliberate, intentional, brick-by-brick construction of something larger than your own appetite, your own comfort, and your own lifespan? Because here is the cold, undecorated truth that Machiavelli understood with crystalline clarity. A man who builds nothing leaves nothing, and the world does not mourn what it cannot remember. It simply moves forward, fills the space you occupied with someone else, and continues without a single pause in its rhythm. You were here, and then you were not. And if you built nothing that outlasted your heartbeat, it is as though you were never here at all. This is not meant to crush you. This is meant to ignite you, because the legacy equation is not a sentence. It is an invitation. It is the most powerful motivational force available to a man who has truly mastered his ego, silenced his distractions, and begun to see his life not as a series of moments to be consumed, but as a canvas to be deliberately, masterfully, and unapologetically constructed. The man who has done the internal work, who has fought the silent war, closed the ego trap, mastered the code of silence, and learned to govern his emotions with cold precision. That man arrives at this question not with dread, but with a burning, focused, almost dangerous sense of purpose. He knows what he is building. He knows why it matters. and he knows that every day he spends not building it is a day he will never recover. Machiavelli's prince was not simply a man of power, he was a man of legacy. Every move calculated not just for today's advantage, but for tomorrow's foundation. Every alliance formed, every enemy neutralized, every resource acquired was in service of something larger than the moment, a vision so clear and so consuming that it made short-term comfort completely irrelevant. That is the mindset of a legacy builder. That is the psychology of a man who refuses to be forgotten. He does not work for applause. He does not build for validation. He builds because the alternative, a life lived entirely in service of his own momentary pleasure, his own ego, his own small and shrinking comfort zone, is a fate he considers more terrifying than death itself. Mediocrity is the only true failure. Everything else is simply a lesson on the way to something greater. Your legacy is not built in the grand moments. It is not built in the speeches, the milestones, the celebrations, or the public victories. It is built in the private hours, the 5 a.m. sessions when no one is watching, the decisions made in the dark that no one will ever applaud, the quiet commitments honored not because someone is keeping score, but because you are keeping score and you refuse to lose to yourself. It is built in the relationships you invest in with intention, the knowledge you accumulate with hunger, the craft you refine with obsession, and the character you forge through every trial that would have broken a lesser man and instead made you more precise, more patient, and more powerful than you were the day before. The legacy equation demands one thing above all else, that you stop living as though you have unlimited time. You do not. None of us do. And the man who lives with that awareness, not in fear, but in fierce, focused urgency, is the man who builds something that the world cannot ignore, cannot erase, and cannot forget. He becomes not just a man who existed, but a man who mattered, a man whose presence altered the trajectory of everything and everyone it touched. A man whose name, whose work, whose impact echoes long after the last breath leaves his body. That is the only victory worth pursuing. That is the only equation worth solving. Drop "I am building my legacy" in the comments if you are playing the long game and refusing to be forgotten. Number 10. The final charge. You were never meant to be ordinary. Now prove it. You have made it to the end, and that alone tells me something about you. Because most men quit before the final chapter. Most men consume the beginning, get comfortable in the middle, and never reach the place where everything crystallizes into a single, undeniable truth. But you are still here, and so I will give you that truth without decoration, without softening, and without apology. You were never meant to be ordinary. You were never meant to shrink, to settle, to silence the deepest and most powerful instincts inside you in exchange for a life that is safe, predictable, and completely beneath what you are capable of. The ego that once controlled you, that loud, fragile, validation-hungry force, it was never your identity. It was your cage, and every lesson in this monologue was a key. The silent war, the Machiavellian mind, the code of silence, the cold equation, the legacy you are now committed to building. These are not concepts, they are weapons. And a man armed with this kind of self-mastery is not just difficult to defeat, he is impossible to ignore. So from this moment forward, carry yourself differently, think differently, move differently. Let the reconstruction that began here continue in every private hour, every silent decision, every moment where the old version of you would have flinched, and the new version simply moves. The strongest version of yourself is not a destination. It is a daily, deliberate, unrelenting choice. Make it today, make it tomorrow, make it every single day until it is no longer a choice. It is simply who you are. Drop "I am the Machiavellian mind" in the comments right now and claim it. If this monologue reached something deep inside you, like this video, subscribe to Machiavellian Mind and turn on notifications, because what is coming next will go even deeper. The journey has only just begun.